Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome President and CEO of EastWest Institute, John Edwin Moroz.
Thank you. Good morning. Congratulations on what we're hearing from the breakthrough groups, and just to say that this was an unusual convening, and we at the EastWest Institute have learned a lot, and including things that we need to do better in 2011. And the ultimate test for you and your feedback will be that it will be better. So with that comment, I'd like to turn over to someone who doesn't need to be introduced, Melissa Hathaway, who's going to lead the team effort to bring all of this together. Melissa?
Thank you, John. Good afternoon or good morning. It's hard to keep track of the time zones these days. I just wanted to look and reflect upon the last 2 days of work. The EastWest Institute serves as the behind-the-scenes facilitator and bridge of the East and the West and government to government to address some of the toughest global security problems facing all of us. Over the last 2 days, we assembled 500 people from 40 countries, cybersecurity leaders from our governments, from our industries, and from our academia and non-government organizations. And we put in the equivalent of 2 years worth of work in 2 days. Why? Because the internet is our common ground. Our daily lives and businesses, our governments, are connected and dependent upon this digital infrastructure. We demonstrated our commitment to address the challenges presented to us as individuals, as businesses and governments. And we began, effectively, the Dallas Dialogue on cybersecurity. Over the next hour, you're going to hear from 8 different perspectives and vertical market areas on the challenges that are facing all of us and the areas that need further global perspective. And I am joined by 2 colleagues here. John Stewart, the Chief Security Officer of Cisco Systems, to my right, and Kamlesh Bajaj, who's the Chief Executive Officer of Data Security Council of India. So for the next little while, we're going to go through in order of the program these particular 8 areas that and all of the work that was done. And so I'd like to introduce the Information and Communications Technology Group, Ed Amoroso and Mark Brauhaus, to please present their findings. And that will be summarized then again by John and Kamlesh and myself as we move on to the next one. Ed?
Okay, hi everybody. We were the ICT Group. In some sense, we had a bit of an advantage because most of the people working in computing, networking, technology are extremely familiar with this topic and had been through this sort of discussion before. So we had, I think, a really good group that Mark and I moderated. We had 5 main points. I'm going to take you through the first 2, and then Mark will take you through 3, 4, and 5. The first one was around mobility and mobility security, or the global wireless infrastructure that's emerging. It was our observation that in the standards area in particular, we're not talking about standards around best practice, but functional security standards for authentication, for data collection, for threat information sharing between devices, for correlation and collection, and ultimately back-end filtering and rate limiting, things like that in carrier infrastructure, and also at the device and app level, functional requirements, in addition, assurance requirements for software correctness. I think that's a gaping hole, and felt like some immediate need exists for a strong standards group. The name ITU came up a couple of times to step up. Standards are squirrely things. Sometimes it's a couple of real motivated individuals driving it. Other times it's big groups. However it gets done, we believed it needs to get done. That was our first finding. Second area was around supply chain and the transparency that's required globally as we procure and use components that come from who knows where, right? It's a long-standing problem that software that you did not write is probably something that you cannot trust. So you never ever get to the point where you can have complete trust, but we can go a long way toward building lineage around where things came from, how they were designed, how they were built, and a set of assurance levels could easily emerge so that for things that are really critical to some essential service, there'd be good information, good, solid, trusted information around the supply chain lineage of that component versus some app that you might download which may not be as important. So that was our second finding. I'm going to turn it over to Mark.
Great, I'm Mark Brauhaus. I lead the Juniper security business, and it was my pleasure to do this with Ed and the team. And I think both found that the discussions were entirely global. The technology community is used to working together across boundaries, and so there was good discussion on all 4 topics. Number 3 was the cybersecurity, transparency, and threat sharing topic. We observed that on the internet there is not yet the equivalent of the Center for Disease Information, or Center for Disease Control. In epidemiology, we know where epidemics are happening. There's anonymous reporting globally. People understand the threat environment in health. But on the internet, we do not. And we need a trusted way